Okay.
Oh, perfect. I think we're good now.
Okay. So roll call, although I don't have a list of the governance committee, like people attending, just because it wasn't in the document, but I'll just call everyone's name. How do I do that? Okay. Okay. Counselor Benest.
Here.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Counselor Huffman.
Here.
Counselor McCormack.
Here.
And Christine, your last name isn't on here, so I don't know your last name.
It's Ammon. Yeah, here.
Okay, Counselor Ammon. And Counselor Emily, I forget your last name. Petch, Counselor Petch. There we go.
Got it. Sorry, that was really funny.
You come up as BUCSC, so I'm like, oh
Oh,
God.
I love that. Sorry, that was funny.
Okay. Can I edit on here?
Okay, perfect. Cool. Mini training. Do you see the third button from the right? Like that little like on the very, very right? Very, 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 like go all the way to your screen, very right.
Oh.
Yeah, so the third one in there. On the actual like square agenda, yeah.
There
So
we
if you
go.
click that, and then you scroll down a little bit on that, you can write in it.
Perfect.
I would do like so I would do maybe even write it in as like E.Petch, B.Huffman, with the kind of like commas in between. That's how I would go about it.
Did I spell that correctly? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you're good. And that one's with a U.
Oh, Huffman, gotcha. I'm still trying to figure out how to work like, Zoom.
Bro, it took a while for me to learn Zoom and OWL, so you're totally good.
And then, Christine, do you mind just spelling your last name for me? Please?
A-M-I-N.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll just put a 0 there too. Okay. Comments from the chair. So I thought maybe here we could just quickly introduce ourselves and just say like what program and year we're in, because I feel like I don't know anyone. So I'll start, I guess. My name's Adrienne. I'm going into fourth year now. And I'm doing an honors spec in nutrition and a major in French. So if anyone's lower year and needs help, I will gladly help with any of those courses. And something interesting about me, I'm also on the fencing team, which is postponed this year until after Thanksgiving. But yeah. Anyone like to go next?
I can go next. I guess we'll just go in order of attendance. I'm Emily. I'm the president of council. I'm going into year 3 of also food and nutrition. So I might pick apart your brain on some of those third-year courses. Might message you after about that. Fun thing about me, I'm on the London powerlifting team. Are you good to go next? We're just going in the order of attendance.
Yeah, Counselor Huffman.
I was like, I'm not sure. Okay. So I'm going into year 3. I'm doing an honor specialization in sociology and a minor in criminal justice. A fun fact, I'm at home right now. I'm from Stratford.
Cool. Counselor McCormack.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Kat. I'm going into my 4th year in the Leadership and Social Change program, and I'm also doing a double minor in dance and sociology. Fun fact about me is I guess, I don't know, I'm a dancer, and I literally spend most of my life dancing, so yeah.
Cool. Counselor Benest.
Hi everyone. I'm Abigail Benest, and I'm going into my 2nd year, and I'm in an honor specialization for nutrition and families, and I'm also doing a minor in geography on main campus. And I don't know, I don't really have a fun fact. my family just got a fire pit in our backyard, so I'm very excited about that.
So cool. Perfect weather for that now. Okay, Counselor Emin.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to my 4th year foods and nutrition program, and fun fact about me is, so I have lived in 4 different continents throughout my life.
Wow. Cool. I feel like I know you guys better already. Perfect. Okay, so now we're just gonna do an approval of the agenda. So I'm just gonna open it up a bit bigger here. So, Counselor Petch, here do we just kind of like go through
Yeah, so for approval of the agenda, you don't really have to go through it in detail if you don't want to. If you do, that's totally up to you. This would just be the time where, say, I could say, could you move with something for action to for discussion instead? Or
Okay.
could I amend it and put a 10-minute speech in here for me to present something, right? So that's kind of where that would occur.
Okay. So does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? Okay, I'm seeing all no's. So we will continue. Approval of draft minutes. Okay, so this will be done next meeting, correct? Okay, so
Yeah.
we can move on from this. There's nothing in here for discussion, so we'll just move on to the for action section. So this is motion number A, right?
Yep, so you pretty much would just click on Exhibit 1 because that'll take you to, you're gonna like this, a really cute document. And so you're pretty much just gonna read out the motion to everybody and then I'll kind of guide you if we get stuck.
Okay, so I read it first and then I'll say who's the motioner.
Yep, so I would pretty much just say, okay, so we're on motion number 1, repeal and replacement, read the entire thing and just say, can I get somebody to second the motion actually?
Okay.
That's what you would say, you don't even have to mention me.
Okay, so motion number 1, repealment and replacement of corporate bylaw number 1. Whereas the current bylaw number 1 of the corporation does not accurately reflect the actual functioning of the executive and legislative branches of the Brescia University College Students' Council. Whereas the inaccurate reflection leads to liability and transparency concerns within the corporation. Be it resolved that the previously ratified bylaw number 1, as seen in exhibit number 1, shall be repealed and replaced by a newly ratified bylaw number 1, as seen in exhibit number 2. So
And then
now,
you would ask for a seconder right now.
okay, do I have a seconder?
Brooke Huffman, Vice President Student Life.
If I remember correctly, this goes in cap.
Yeah, just her last name. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay,
Now,
so and then you would
that?
pretty much just open it up for me to speak on it. So I guess if I don't say open it up, like you just kind of have to directly lead it to me now.
Okay.
So I think during the meeting you would just say, Counselor Petch, would you like to speak on this? Pretty much.
Okay. So Counselor Petch, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yeah, I would love to. So this motion, this is our most important bylaw of council. So this one supersedes anything else. So if I went and I dissolved bylaw 1, we would cease to exist as a company. Also, anything in bylaw 1, if something else contradicts it in another bylaw, even number 2, 3, another smaller policy, this one dominates. So this one's really important for us to get right, because if I change things in this one, it automatically trickles down to everywhere else. So if another policy says something different, I don't automatically have to change that one too in the same meeting. This one just overrides it. So I can kind of change the smaller ones as I go, but they'll still be actually core changed. So I'm actually going to ask if I can screen share so I can go through the policy by myself, so I don't have to like ask you to scroll down and stuff. Is that okay? Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna screen share. Oh, do you mind making me the host really quickly?
Sorry. So I do that, right?
Yeah.
I can do it.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Okay, here we are. Okay, here we are. I'm just gonna go through it the same way as you guys would. So just to first off, I'm gonna go through what the old bylaw looked like, because I think that's very important to go through first. So this was our old bylaw. It might just take a few seconds to load. I apologize about that. It also looks like it's a little bit wonky in how I saved it, but there was major issues in this bylaw. So the way council was functioning in reality was not reflected in how our actual corporate papers were. So due to our corporate papers being different than how we are actually functioning, I apologize, the phone's gonna stop ringing in a second. We were technically functioning illegally. So a lot of the things we were doing did not actually reflect in this bylaw, which is not okay. So this is a bit of an emergency motion going through for me to get us to where we're supposed to be. The changes in this one right now are not going to be the final changes. So I'm going to be having to play around with this bylaw for probably the entire year, and the end goal is April 30th, 2021, because this bylaw is very messy and it's our most important. So there's going to have to be a lot added to it. So there's a lot missing right now. So technically things we're doing right now are not all reflected in here, but this has to be the all-encompassing everything. So a few issues right off the bat in the old bylaw is I don't think it's been touched since it originally was made by the lawyer when we first became our own company. So I think it's definitely been over 5 years since anyone's touched it. So while the bylaw might have been okay at the beginning when it first put in place, it hasn't been evolved with time with how council looks. I would also argue that it actually never was proper because there are some things in this bylaw that I can argue never happened on council at all. So it's giant issues with this. We're at the point where the way we're functioning right now, we are at a point where we could get sued. And many things that did occur the past couple of years, we could have been liable for those. So this is how the old bylaw looked like. To be honest, instead of amending it, and that's why you see it as a motion as repeal and replace, there's no way I would have been able to make small amendments of this and make it good. So I honestly had to completely repeal the old one. And if no one knows what repeal means, that means get rid of, and we're replacing it with a whole new one. So in this one motion, we're like tearing up the old one and putting in a whole brand new one because I had to gut it that badly. So this was the old one. It didn't reflect how we were supposed to be. I don't want to go into it too much. It's obviously here if you want to look at as well or request some time to look at it. But the one major thing was it said that the board of directors, so their council is a company. I'm not sure if some people don't know this. So there's executive branch and a legislative branch. So the executive branch is called the board of directors. So there's like a CEO of the company and all these other directors, and the legislative branch is the actual council. So in this bylaw here, it says that the board of directors cannot be actual council members, but in our reality of how our council functions, the executives of council are automatically the board of directors of the company. So as it stands right now, I am not a member of council, and neither is Brooke, and neither is Kat. That's how bad it is right now. So I've had to completely gut it, so I won't spend too much more time on the old one. And it will be getting replaced by this new one right here. Whoops. So it might take, I'm really wanting to make sure we get this bylaw number 1 correctly. So we will be spending the most time at this meeting going through this one, but everyone else kind of stems off of it, and we'll go through the other 4 really quick. So, okay. So I added a few little things at the top, just kind of clarification words. I've added ex officio as an actual member of council that we recognize because we will be having some ex officio members of our council. I'll get more into that later. Ex officio means that you're only a member of council because you sit somewhere else. So for example, the residence council president's the best example of that. So we have those members of our council. These are all just interpretations as well. Some of this is corporate documents. Getting into the most important stuff. So really, okay, so jurisdiction of the board and the council. So it's also changed in here that, and I think this is really good. So the board can agree to make a change to the bylaws and the policies without passing it through council. But at the next general meeting, it has to be passed through council. So we're not giving too much power to the board, but it also stops us from having to wait between those 3 weeks if an emergency thing has to be changed right now. So I can call the 4 other board of directors and we could change something. And if it doesn't get passed through council 3 weeks from now, then it gets put back to how it was before. So I think that's a really good way of going about it. And it's a little bit of a loophole to get things done quickly without giving too much power to the board. And this is mostly for if something is unclear, the governance officer can see if the board can pass it. So we would have to ask the governance officer to kind of look into it to see if it is something that the board could pass themselves. Council, mostly all of this is the same, just reworded to a little bit easier to understand. None of this has been changed at all. Directors have been changed. So the director names have changed. So like you see right here, these do not have the same names as the executives on council, you realize. So the chair is the chief executive officer, the CEO of the actual company. The director of student affairs, that would be the vice president student life of our council. Director of events and programming, that's the vice president student events. Director of marketing and communications, that's the CCO, the chief communications officer. The chief financial officer is that one. Secretary to the board, so that will be the council secretary, is now getting added as a board of director, because looking into how board of directors are supposed to be set up, you need a secretary to the board. It's mandatory as a nonprofit board of directors, you need one. So we have a 6th board of director now. None of this has been changed. So do you see how it says the board shall appoint the president as the chair? So automatically your 5 execs and the secretary are getting appointed as those. But then it gets a little bit messy in terms of technicalities. So technically, I'm just trying to see something here. Technically, the executives are employees of the board. So despite being the people put in place first and then automatically appointed as the board, the executives are employees of the board in all technicality. So the board has 6 employees, the 5 executives and the governance officer. And then it stems down from there as everybody as employees of each other. And that's the best way to look at it. So pretty much everybody who's a non-rep on council is an intern position, because the only way to spin it, so say an employee doesn't have to get $14 an hour and have that type of contract, make them an intern. I'm a president intern, Adrian's a speaker intern, governance officer intern, every single person's an intern. A few things to be concerned about is we do not have any protection for some of the directors. Western does have some protection in terms of insurance for their directors regarding the corporation. We don't have anything in place for stuff like that. Yep, liability insurance. We do not have this currently for really anybody or any member of council. We've never ran into any issues before, but I do worry if, say, we ever get sued. Like I said, it has been a concern of me looking to how bad these policies have been upkept in the previous time. No one's just looked into it deeply enough to care, right? But we can't just keep bagging on that. Okay. So the corporation shall employ executive officer interns who shall be responsible for managing the political affairs of the corporation through management of the legislative branch. So you pretty much are just saying that 5 executives are hired by the board to manage the council, which makes sense in practice. But then it also gives us that explaining how they're elected, right? So despite being like employed by them, like we all get elected, it's all still the same way. Blah, 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 1 year. And then this explains, these are some changes I made, how vacancies work, right? So vacancy in the position of president. So if I drop out right now, vice president student life is automatically bumped up. And if there's no one in that position, vice president student events is automatically bumped up. And then say all 3 of us are non-existent, any ordinary member of council, which is a voting member, so it's like your food and nutrition rep, your off-campus rep, all those reps, they do a little internal election at council. So they can all get like 5 minutes to speak and do an internal election. So we had to really kind of outline that because it was really confusing on how those kind of vacancies work, which I think was an issue. There was also some changes in the vacancies regarding other positions. So vice president, student life, and student events, those are both elected big positions that Brooke and Kat are upholding right now. I changed how the vacancies work for that. So in absence of the executive officer, a vacancy in the position of the vice president student life or vice president student event shall be filled per the executive officer vacancy policy with duties of the vacant position temporarily upheld by said executive's associate on interim basis. So if Kat automatically drops out right now, she calls me and says she's leaving, the AVP automatically is pushed up whether they like it or not. That's just something how to go with the position. So they're automatically pushed up because our goal here is to not have those high up positions empty. So we're automatically always pushing people up. In the absence of both Kat and her AVP, the chief executive officer of the board can choose to appoint a resource member of the portfolio to fill it by interim basis, or appoint the president to behold the portfolio management. So they have that little option there, say like, we don't really have any trust in the resource members, just random bad year. If said interim desires to be officially appointed, the interim can request a non-confidence internal election at the next general meeting. So that AVP could say, I really want to stay as the vice president student events now, because I'm technically as the interim vice president student events, but I want it to be my actual position. They can request at the next general meeting to do a 5-minute speech, and all voting members of council do yes, no. They get over 50% yes, they're automatically given the position. So we don't have to open it up and do a giant big election thing. And I think it makes more sense to have that AVP moving up. So that's how it will work with the elected positions. The chief communications officer, chief financial officer, identical, except instead of requesting to have an election, they request to have an interview. So say the chief financial officer drops out, the AVP is automatically moved up as an interim, like a fill-in for the time being. They can request to have an interview. So if they get interviewed and successful, they get to keep the position. So we don't have to open it up officially to a bunch of people. And so that's how those are going to work. That was a major change that I created there. Okay, interns, this is also a change. So under supervision of the chief executive officer, so the board, like I said earlier, they have the 6 employees, the president, the vice president student life, the vice president student events, chief communications officer, chief financial officer, and governance officer. So those are your 6 employees of the actual board. The 5 are in charge of the legislative branch. The governance officer, as you can see, is not an actual member of council, right? So that's like the only member of council employee of that board who's not in charge of council. And then you got under the supervision of the president, the executive assistant to the president. So she's technically, I'm her supervisor. Under the under supervision of the vice president student life. So that's the AVP, as well as all of the commissioners are also interns. So this person is the supervisor of all those positions, the AVP and everybody underneath of them. So it adds a little bit more validity behind having them in those portfolios. Like, you are their official supervisor. Same thing with student events, their AVP and all the official members of their portfolio. And then it just kind of goes down, chief communications officer, all the members of their portfolio. That is not correct. I'm going to make an amendment to this, sorry. If that's not okay, tell me. For clarity, I put the wrong position title there. Yep, same thing here. And then you get to your governance officer. So like I said, they are not an employee of the board. So everybody who is underneath the employees of the board, obviously you're also employees of the board. Governance officer, this entire group are not council members. Is technically not a counselor. They're an employee of the company. Same thing with the chief returning officer. That person is hired by Abigail, who is hired by the company to run our elections. These 2 positions are new, policy analyst and bookkeeper. So we will be hiring a bookkeeper to handle the bookkeeping of the corporation. We'll also be hiring a policy analyst position to fix our policies right now. So these positions will not be upheld by another random stranger. Chloe, who is the chief financial officer, will be taking on this role, and I will be taking on the policy analyst role. It adds a little bit more validity behind the fact that me and her are both doing tasks that are not under our president and our chief financial officer position. So I'm currently redoing all of our bylaws and our policies single-handedly by myself right now, and that's not under the president position at all. And Chloe doing bookkeeping, we usually hire an external bookkeeper, so there'd be a whole separate person doing that. But Chloe is offered to do both roles as well, and I think it's really good to keep both of these people in council. So we can be hiring people who are already there who are willing to do those extra jobs, do it. If we hired a lawyer to do this policy analyst, it would probably be $8,000 by how bad it is, because everything's not just slightly changed, it's having to be directly gutted and changed completely, like written from the bottom up. I've had to kind of take a hammer, hit council, and build it up from the ground again. So I will be taking on this role, and Chloe will be taking on that role. Secretary is also under the governance officer now. So all of these people are not actual counselors. We're hired to do roles for council behind the scenes. So this just kind of explains that who oversees who. We just talked about that earlier, just kind of wording it differently. Okay, so this is a very important part. So I will be asking for feedback in the middle of this. So counselors. So there'll be 3 types of membership. Like I mentioned before, you have your ordinary members, your resource members, and your ex officio members. Yep, they must be a student. Okay. So this is something that is probably one of the most important parts of you guys voting yes or no on this bylaw or creating an amendment to this. So we will be officially passing the voting members of council and all members of council for this entire year. So by passing this motion, you're going to be agreeing with the members of council. So when we get to the general member terms of reference, you cannot change the people on that list because you've passed it here. So ordinary members, like I said, remember those are the voting members. So you have the president, the vice president, student life, vice president, student events, preliminary year rep, first year representatives. There's going to be 3. The reason there's 3 is they're replacing 3 that already existed. There was a first year off-campus rep, a first year residence rep, and a first year food and nutrition rep. I've removed the specializations from all 3 of those positions because I think it just is unattainable and it's hard for like first years to get involved. They're like, okay, well, there's only 1 for off-campus students and 1 for food and nutrition. It just helps first years just randomly get involved. And I don't think, Brooke could probably attest to this, me and her were both first year reps, and I don't think this would have stopped us from applying. Just would have made it even easier. So then I have been studying the faculties and the honor specializations of Russia really heavily. And this is how we will be breaking up the reps per honor specialization. If you'd like me to go more in depth with a certain rep, I can right after. So we're going to have a community development rep, a human ecology rep. This one encompasses 4 different programs that all are called human ecology. So there's like nutrition and families, a few of those other like family studies type of courses, but they're not just called family studies because that doesn't really encompass them all. Human ecology encompasses all of them. Psychology rep, sociology rep, food and nutritional science rep. That one's not going to be split into a bunch. It's just going to have 3 different reps for it. It's a school of food and nutrition, but there's pretty much just 1 program in it and it's massive. English language and literature rep, French studies rep, history rep, and BMOS rep. BMOS rep was something I was playing around with a lot, but then I realized that every honor specialization in the School of Leadership and Social Change said they were a BMOS program, so I think this makes sense. Off-campus student rep is a position I'm wanting to remove from the reps eventually. I can't do it this year though, because the off-campus student rep is a little bit insecure in her position. And I think having her underneath of me through the reps is the best idea for this position right now. But next year we will be wanting to move that off-campus student rep away from this position and underneath somewhere else. I'll explain in just a second. Then you have your non-voting resource members. So that's everybody that was an intern earlier. So like your social media commissioner, like all those people, chief returning officer, right? Like people who are not voting members of council. Voting ex officio member. That means you're a voting member, but you're only there because you sit somewhere else. So this is the residence council president because they have their own separate residence council. The reason they're a voting member on ours and I am not a voting member on theirs is because what we do affects residents and what residents does doesn't affect me. If that makes sense. Like we're a giant all-encompassing and they're kind of a small aspect of Russia. So that's why they're a vote on ours. I'm not a vote on theirs. Same thing with Western. So what Western does affects me and what Russia does doesn't affect Western to the same degree. So I'm a vote on Western Council. Western Council is not a vote on ours. So that University Student Council rep, the University Student Council president, so that like president of Western Council, is a non-voting ex officio member. So is the Huron University Student Council president and the King's University Student Council president, because we're all binded together through an affiliation agreement, but they're non-voting on our council. The USC rep, this was a previously voting member of our council, but I'm making it non-voting because it doesn't make sense for me for them to have a vote. They are hired by Russia or elected by Russia to represent Russia on Western Council. That's what their position is. So it doesn't make sense for them to have a vote because what we're doing, they're not like representing like students in that kind of facility. And then the 2 HBK Western student senators, those are 2 Brussia or Huron or King students representing all 3 affiliates on Western Senate. They're also ex officio members of our council. These members, they might never show up to our meetings. They're just welcome to if they'd like to, right? They're non-voting ex officio members. I would doubt that some of them would never show up, but they're here anyway. And the Brussia Council student at larges. So these are 4 students who sit on Brussia Council, not Student Council, a separate council for anyone who doesn't know the difference. It's kind of like with all the professors and stuff to represent Brussia students, so they're also there too. So I'm going to be creating an ex officio member terms of reference separately in like next couple months. And that is it. So termination of membership, none of this has been changed really. I've just changed the wording of a few policies. I have not changed any of this here. No. I changed the wording for here as the standing committees. None of this has been changed. Yep, yeah, and so that encompasses the entire policy. So if it would ever load back. Yeah, so I guess we will move it on to, I say, this is when, Adrian, you would ask if Brooke wants to talk on it quickly before we go to like question period.
Okay, Counselor Huffman, do you want to speak on this motion?
Yeah, I think Emily summarized it pretty well, but I can say that I know for a fact that the policy was outdated, just from talking to previous council. I'm really glad that we're doing this so we can solidify everything. I do think they're still like up for discussion for this, and we can still, it'll make things a little bit easier to run in council. I like that Emily did consolidate with me on this a lot. So yeah, I don't think that's all. Yeah. I'm excited to see what council thinks and like get their input as well.
Perfect. So now we're gonna go to the voting for,
We're going to
so
go to question period and then debate. So anyone could ask questions, including you. No, I totally get it. It's fine. So like you kind of open up to questions and I pretty much have to answer anything unless I delegate it to someone else.
okay, so does anyone have questions regarding this motion?
For the reps again, can we bring it up?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to discuss. 1 second.
Yeah, I actually wanted to discuss about that too. Just
I almost put the reps as a for discussion. Like, I don't know if anyone was on the agenda like 2 hours ago. It was under for discussion. I want to discuss the reps before I open this up, but I figured we could just do it during this. I could also give you my reasoning behind the reps, like give you some screenshots I was looking at. I had probably looked at Brussia's programs for a couple hours. If we can ever find it. He's a biggie. Yep. Okay. Yep. Specific question at all?
Okay. So we had the sociology and criminal justice rep and the psychology and family studies rep. Are we just not doing the criminal justice and family studies?
The family study should be there.
Underneath community.
Oh no, it's not, because do you remember human ecology is the one that encompasses all those family studies.
Okay.
When we promote it, I'm gonna have family studies in bracket, so it's not gonna be confusing.
Okay.
Criminal justice is not actually an honor specialization at Brussia. If you want to like research it yourself, so there's pretty much just an honor specialization in community and criminal justice, and an honor specialization in community development. So by having community development, it encompasses both the community development one and the one that includes criminal justice. So like,
so
if you're in that criminal justice, you're in the community development.
okay, so when it comes to these representatives, like when we advertise them in September, I know we are shifting around some things anyway, but I think that'd be really important to highlight these things and maybe even because it is going to take probably a little bit of explaining to do, especially with BMOS. Is that where we're also putting leadership as well?
Okay, so yeah, so a few I was looking at the non-for-profit management and the food marketing management honor specializations, and those are both registered as BMOS. And those were the only two I saw under student leadership and social change. So that's why I just called that one the BMOS representative. It's either I was going to call it a leadership and social change representative, but then I figured BMOS sounds better.
Okay.
Yeah. Food and nutrition, it's pretty much the same thing as like food and nutrition. It's an entire school of food and nutrition, just like humanities is an entire school. So humanities got broken up into a French, a history, and an English, but food and nutrition didn't get broken up. But so that's why it needs 3, right? Because it's equivalent there.
Makes sense.
For 3 first-year reps, I don't want to decrease that number. I always view the first years as a future of our council. So despite there being a little unequal representation between first years and like other people, there's not like a second, third, fourth year rep. I would argue most of these other reps are going to be non-first year students, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how that ends up. And then the off-campus student one might be moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the questions I had. I just wanted clarification on a couple of them because I know they cross over.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns regarding the reps especially? Kat, do you think that combines the School of Leadership and Social Change properly, me wording it this way, like BMOS representative?
I was thinking about that. Just
Yeah.
it's kind of hard because leadership and social change can go in like many different avenues, like CD and BMOS. And I know a lot of students are in like leadership only, like myself. Like I'm not doing BMOS. I'm in the leadership and social change like branch.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely a hard school because it's kind of like goes its separate ways, and it's not like your standard like French and all the students take French courses. Leadership is like someone can be in BMOS and I never take any classes with them, but we're under the same school. So it's very confusing, but I mean, I agree with that. Like you could do BMOS. Are you removing the leadership and social change representative? Like
Was in replacement of it because on my research, and this is just me being in food and nutrition, just looking it up myself, I didn't see anything under the school. I viewed the School of Leadership and Social Change as the umbrella, and it was food management and marketing, and then oh my goodness, non-for-profit management after that. There was nothing else that was listed underneath as honor specializations.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another one I'm missing at all, or?
There's also CD, community development, and leadership.
Oh, yeah. So the community development's up there, but are you in an honor specialization of leadership and social change? Is that like your actual program?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For some reason it wasn't reflected on Brush's website.
Yeah, Brush's website isn't the greatest.
Or like the academic calendar, like Western's academic calendar is what I use to make this. It's like under the Brush tab. So is there a concern that their students not getting represented at all under here if we have the community development and the BMOS?
I mean, maybe a small fraction, but you're not going to get every single student. Like I know the leadership program that I'm in is like, it's very small. So it would be a small fraction, but with BMOS and CD, you are getting like majority of the students in the leadership program. So
okay.
I would say that's completely fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that insight. Yeah. Okay. Not specialized on this. I guess that's all the questions. I guess Adrienne, I'll let you take over.
Wait, I have a question. About the, can you go back up to where like the bookkeeper and the policy analyst were? So with the policy analyst,
yeah.
I love that it's added. I think that's a really good idea. Because it's a lot for like my position and your position to be going over it together. I think it's good to have like a separate thing for it. But my only thing is when because almost everyone in that portfolio or that section is kind of paid, right?
Yeah.
So I assume the policy analyst would be 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that being added to the financial?
Yeah, so these 2 positions got added upon a 2-hour phone call with Chloe.
Okay.
We were going to hire her as a bookkeeper and give her an hourly rate, because it's pretty much the chief financial officer is not required to do the heavy bookkeeping either. It's not under their position. So that's why we had, I don't know, some of you know Karen. So we had Karen, we had a bookkeeper for a couple months. She's no longer employed. So we either had to find another bookkeeper, or we could keep it internally and also hire Chloe as a bookkeeper. So have her as that second title, and we were going to be paying her hourly. It was going to be like $20 an hour for how many hours. So I came up with an agreement with her and I said, listen, instead of doing that $25 an hour, that could have added up like crazy. And also us having an actual employee is a lot more weight on my shoulders to deal with, having another employee on top of everything else. Have it as a slate honorarium. So me and her debated and we came up with a thing of maybe just having a $4,000 honorarium for that position for the entire year. And it probably is going to level out as being less than it would have if we were getting her paid hourly. And it just makes more sense because it's not under her position. We also discussed the fact that I'm doing something that's not under my position either. I'm kind of doing the work of a full-fledged lawyer right now, trying to fix our policies.
Yeah.
I've considered maybe bringing on a lawyer or someone to actually just do our policies. But the issue is they're not just looking at the small changes and doing small changes. We're completely hitting it down and building it from the ground. So I would have to be doing as much work with the lawyer and giving them advice and consulting to like build it up how we want it to be, because they can't read our mind on how it should look. They would have to ask all the little details, how to write stuff. It would be the same amount of work for me doing that as me just writing it myself.
Mhm.
And so we're not at the point where we can just like have the lawyer and he can read our mind and he can make all these kind of things. So it just wouldn't make sense to do that. And also, how much money would that be? Because it's not just him looking it over and trying to find some discrepancies, which I'm going to do eventually. Once everything's done, we're probably going to hand everything off to a lawyer to get everything looked at officially. But I would be working with them hours and hours and hours. And sometimes lawyers are paid $300 an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone doesn't know that, but it could be $300, $400 an hour to have a lawyer. I just don't want to think about how much money that could be, having them help with everything. And so we've also agreed that for this policy analyst, we might be also looking at a $4,000 honorarium. So these two positions are for our emergency year. And as much as COVID's an emergency year for everything else, COVID's not an emergency year for our council. The fact that our council has kind of been crumbling as a company is the emergency year for us here. So this bookkeeper position might not be needed next year if our finances aren't as bad shape as they are right now. So maybe next year, the CFO, they just kind of do a little bit of bookkeeping here and there, but our bookkeeping is in such bad shape that we need to have someone designated to do that, like really hardcore, because our
Right.
books are just a mess. Like it's hours and hours and hours of trying to build ourselves back up. It's not just maintenance. Same thing with policy analysts. So these two positions, I'm wanting to write it in here somewhere that they're just 1 year terms. These two dissolve
Okay.
after 1 year. So even though we're spending that $8,000, we have a $170,000 slush fund right now. I think it's worth it to have that $8,000 to designate to these two positions to get us off the ground. Because the governance and the finance is the core of the company, and events are, everything stops if we lose our non-for-profit status. And I'm personally worried we're going to lose our non-for-profit status right now if we get audited. So events and student life doesn't matter if that happens. So I think we're in a bit of an emergency due to that.
Yeah.
We will be getting a $4,000 honorarium. We're also playing with the honorariums for the other positions. More on that later. Me and Chloe are still playing around with numbers, but we're trying to move everything up a little bit. But yeah, so.
But then there comes the issue with it being honorarium, because we want to dismantle that whole thing anyway,
So
right?
the honorarium committee will be dismantled. It'll be a set honorarium. So your
Okay.
contract will say governance officer, your supervisor is the board of directors, and you get a blank honorarium, and it's set. Same with
Okay.
president, same with speaker, same with CRO, same with policy analyst. Every single one's gonna have a set honorarium. I'm gonna see if we can get it paid like bi-yearly. So maybe like December 1st, you get that half of it, and April 1st, you get the second half. Yeah, so we're kind of playing around with the numbers like that, but we're trying to move everybody's pay up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a question again about the representatives. So will that be for the 2022 council? Like that won't affect us this year necessarily, right?
Unfortunately, no, this is right now. So we, despite having some people in positions that we're actually disappearing from, let me go back down. So I don't know how familiar with our representatives, but currently, as of right now, we have a psychology and a family studies rep. That's a combined rep. And a sociology and a criminal justice rep. That's a combined rep. So what we're going to do is, and how I can get away with this, I'm not like adding anything to the position, I'm taking it away. So that person was elected for sociology and criminal justice. They were technically elected for both of those, right? So I'm taking criminal justice away from that position. And then Rosie keeps sociology rep. And then the other one opens up. This one opens up community development. And then for Mary Jane, she keeps the psychology rep, and then the family studies one, which is now the human ecology, will open up. So it's the way we can get away with it is they were elected for both of those things. It's not like I'm adding more and like I'm taking away, right?
Okay, so you're just basically placing them into their program representative, essentially.
Yeah, I think they're excited too. I know Genesis was the humanities representative that I split into English, French, and history, and she was quite worried about representing all of those as well. So this just adds a lot more validity behind their representation, and also gives more votes to humanities. They have 3 votes instead of 1 now, which I think is way more fair too, right? So I think that was another determining factor for saying, yes, I would love to do that. I want to do the French one and open up history and English. So yeah, so if we pass this through council on September 6th, we're going to be opening up the position September 9th. And so that's how we're kind of doing the timeline there. And that's why this emergency meeting's happening, right? This usually wouldn't be happening. Yeah.
I have a question regarding the foods and nutrition one. The 3 positions, do they reflect, like, you know how not everyone is in the honors specialization of nutrition and dietetics? Some of them are just like nutrition and family studies, and there's a 3rd one, I can't remember what is that, but is that what it is?
Well, nutrition and families, that falls under the human ecology ones. They're actually not considered under the food and nutrition like spectrum there. I know it sounds a little weird that it's not. The only honor specializations under food and nutrition are food and nutrition and dietetics. And for anyone who's not under this realm, you don't know that those are 2 separate programs. They are, apparently. But so no, that's why it's called food and nutritional science, because it's called the School of Food and Nutritional Science. So I just took away the school of. So these reps are encompassing the entire School of Food and Nutritional Science. So it's covering that food and nutrition program and that nutrition and dietetics program. And at the end, I think there's like a few other programs that have stopped taking enrollment, but there might be some year 4 still in them. So that encompasses every single student in the food and nutrition program, not just like a certain program. Like the French studies is a program. These are an entire school or like a faculty.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any more questions? No? Okay, we'll move on to debate. Does anyone have anything to debate? No? Okay, so now we're gonna move on to voting. So we're gonna ask that everyone just messages me directly on Zoom if you're for, against, or abstain. And then I'll tally those and write it in the motion. Should I share my screen again? Oh, maybe not for the voting, actually.
I don't think you can see the chat function.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really matter, up to you.
Okay, I'll just tally it and then. Okay, everyone voted. So we have, okay, let me just share again. Oh, Brooke, you have to let me share again. Perfect.
There you go.
Okay, so we have 6 for, 0 against, and 0 that abstained. So this passes. Yay! Right, pass, right?
Yeah, pass. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, my family's speaking in the background. Okay, so we'll move on to the next motion. So motion number 2, amendments of corporate bylaw number 2. Whereas the Brescia University Students' Council, BUCSC, is a representative body of the student community at Brescia University College and is committed to the fair and democratic operation of electoral rules and procedures. Whereas the current bylaw number 2 of the corporation does not accurately reflect the actual functioning of the elections and hiring protocols of the BUCSC, be it resolved that the previously ratified bylaw number 2, as seen in exhibit number 1, shall be amended as shown in red. So, Councillor Petch, would you like to speak on this motion? Oh, first we need a seconder, sorry. Do we have a seconder for this motion?
Councillor Benest.
Okay. So, Councillor Petch, would you like to speak on the motion?
Yeah, I think for this one, you're probably good to screen share because it's like an amendment of the previous one and everything's in bright red. So I guess we'll just scroll through it. But yeah, so bylaw 2 is also one of those ones that weren't properly reflecting how we are functioning usually. There's not a lot of changes to this one. Oh, great, cool. Yeah, that shouldn't be happening. So, Breck, do you want to give me access maybe?
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's the thing. We should probably see if that's going to be a problem for the general meeting.
Well, I actually went on earlier and tried to click on exhibit number 1 and that popped up. But then
Oh,
when I tried like during this meeting, it worked. So I'm not totally sure.
well, that's problematic. We will tinker with that before the meeting. Okay, so I will just wing it myself in this case.
I think it's because Emily is paused. Do you see on her tab it says paused?
Where's to say that?
Like, you see where it says share? Right above that,
Oh,
your email or whatever is paused.
what's that even mean?
I have no idea.
This didn't look wonky this morning, but here we are. So it'll look better for next. Oh yeah, great. Love that. Abigail's like screaming. Okay, so there wasn't that many changes to this one. Most of the changes were, shocker, when motions went through the last couple years, they were never actually changed on the bylaws and the policies. So I did a few changes on my memory of how things were changed, but they're not reflected on the copy that we have. So we're literally just kind of have to pass stuff again, which is unfortunate. So none of this is changed here. It was kind of very small amounts of this one. I put internal election here just to make it a little bit easier to understand. And then it was saying that the committee oversees the governance elections, like it was under elections, and governance is a hired position. So I removed that from the elections list. Yeah, here it is again, governance election. And then I put spring ordinary members because we're talking about elections. And then they talk about like general members as in like the hired and the elected ones. So I just made it easier to understand. We are talking about elected positions. So those ordinary members. None of this is changed here. It actually is looking pretty good. Ordinary changed again. And then I added the chief executive officer may appoint a Brescia student to represent the constituency on an interim basis to ensure accurate representation until the next spring or fall election. This causes, so if nobody applies for the English representative after we close it, I can reach out to an English student to get someone in there. It's because if we don't have someone in that position, English students are not getting any representation at all, and council should not be functioning like that. We need to ensure we're getting equal representation. So if it's after that election period, like as soon as it closes and then we choose to not extend it, I can go and I can like maybe talk to the professors and get recommendations, right? So I think that's a really great way to do that. I literally just changed the wording of this. It said nomination forms have to be signed. We don't do it like that. Everybody's applied and they know that you just include the first name, last name, student number, and UW email address of people nominating you. I think everyone recognizes that. Here was governance officer again being under elected positions. Not sure why. Great. I just changed ordinary member from voting because I just think we are using way too many words to describe the same type of person. Now, instead of saying resource, we're still talking about elections, and it's talking about speeches for resource members. So a social media commissioner would have to give a speech if they were going against other social media commissioners, which doesn't make sense again because they're hired. Yeah, I also changed this. So say I'm campaigning for president and I get a whack ton of demerit points because I start campaigning in residence. I start going door to door in residence asking people to vote for me, which is not allowed. And then the CRO, Christine, decides to give me some demerit points for that because that's like you're campaigning in somewhere you're not allowed to campaign in the rules. She gives me demerit points. So they said here that I need to be notified 6 hours before of the meeting. I changed it to 24. I think 6 is ridiculous. That's just a little small change there. 24 is still not a lot of time to be told about a meeting if it's like this.
6 hours is insane. Like,
I know, I agree. I agree. Nothing's changed here. Obviously, some changes might happen over the year. This is more just getting us set up for functioning in September. And then the bylaw goes weird. Okay, so then I changed it. So then this is me trying to create that the governance officer is a hired position, right? So this 4 sets of BUCSC hiring annually. This was nowhere in here. So kind of really doing that. And now we're saying I might change this to resource. Because general means elected and hired. I did the same thing all over again. Interview protocol. So chief officers, we don't have a general manager of council. And so in our policies, it was saying that we did. So I changed it to the outgoing governance officer because that'll be around February and we still have that outgoing in there. Resource interviews, spring elections. So this is what we did. So it's supposed to have the outgoing portfolio holder, the incoming portfolio holder, and the outgoing resource member. In the event the outgoing resource member is currently seeking another position on the BUCSC or the position is vacant, I added that there. The incoming president shall act as proxy. So this saves me. I had to sit through 25 hours of interviews in probably a week and a half. And this saves me not having to do every single one again. Because it gives the power to the person, like say for Brooke, she's the vice president of student life. It's not my responsibility to choose who her pride and allyship commissioner is, right? Because she's the person directly hiring that person and working with them. So I think it'd be unfair for me to be making those decisions, but I have to sit in the interviews anyway. So we're changing it so I don't have to. Resource interviews, the president will be in these ones just because there's hopefully less. And I just couldn't really find anyone else to be there. The portfolio holder and the governance officer or the CRO. We could debate like maybe changing this to a more like secured who it actually is. So it's not like ambiguous. None of this has been changed. I changed it. It said unsuccessful candidates shall be contacted via email. It never said how successful candidates were contacted. So I added via telephone because I really liked that. Like having the portfolio holder call was really nice. Yep, none of this has changed. And then it goes to like an entire other section of bylaw too. It's like section B. There's like 2 parts of bylaw too. Same thing again. We literally just go through this all over again. It's like a whole other bylaw in a way. And this just talks about the logistics of actual campaigning. So I created this. So before it said a candidate may submit a nomination form for up to 2 resource positions or 1 resource and 1 ordinary position. I added that in myself, so I forgot to make that red. They had it so you could only go for 1 position. I know we did change this in the policy last year, but it didn't get reflected onto the copy I have, so I'm just changing it to how I remember it and how we actually did it in February. So I know a lot of you were hired positions and you remember applying for 2. Because that was a thing. In the policy here, it doesn't state that you could apply for 2. So technically we were doing it like differently than how it's reflected here. So I have it so if the candidate is successfully elected or acclaimed to the ordinary member position, that voting position, they must take that ordinary position. So you can't go for food and nutrition rep and social media commissioner and get food and nutrition rep and choose social media commissioner because it's more important for that voting member to be filled. Because we would rather that than the social media commissioner filled because we really want to get those voting members and prioritize them. Small changes here again. It was really just worded weirdly. It's just kind of changing that. In the case of an executive or associate vacancy, members shall fill roles through steps outlined in the executive officer vacancy policy and the resource member vacancy policy. Those will be added, and everything in those policies I haven't touched yet, so they're not really created yet, but they will be. And that was me talking about in bylaw 1 where people get moved up, right? Well, that's the same. Nothing's really different here. I changed personal social media accounts. Our elections are going to be really heavily online this year, so I just really wanted to protect people that how to properly campaign online. I think we're actually set up okay for online elections, but I had it so if someone's like your friend on Facebook or they see you on their timeline, like that's okay. Because before it was really strict with like you need to like their page to campaign to them. Like I can't just email Abigail being like, hey, vote for me, because that's not consent to like receiving that information. So I had personal social media account added there. None of this was changed. Yeah, and then that's it for that one. Well,
Okay, so Councillor Benes, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yeah, so I think Emily did a really good job, like kind of going over it, but there are just a lot of necessary changes that need to be made to this document, especially this year, because so many of the things are going to be run through the internet over Zoom or however, and they're not going to be in person. So that was a huge chunk that needed to be added there. And then earlier she went over how there was just like errors and there was a lot of like inconsistency. So I remember there was, it would say like voting, and then it would say like ordinary or resource or non-voting and voting, like all over the place. And it would use a mixture of the both. And it was just really confusing to read. So I think having it say ordinary and resource every time was like a really important change to this document. But yeah, I think a lot of the changes in this are necessary and really impact the how we hire and how elections are run. So.
All right, we're going to move on to the question period. So does anyone have any questions about this motion?
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the chief returning officer. When I was trained, I believe I was told, so I'm not allowed to be holding any interviews. Is that the same? I just want to go back onto what it said, if like, when it comes to interviews.
the one where I was like, we could make this more clear on who's doing it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, where is
It's
it?
still the same, or it changed that? Like, I believe it's still the same, right? Like, I'm not allowed to be on any.
I would agree. I think we should change it to just governance officer, if both of you are okay with that. Wherever it is. Oh my goodness. Sorry, friends, these are like 30-page documents each. We love our bylaws. It's in like the interview. Yeah, okay. It's right here, isn't it? Yeah. So were we wanting to just have it as governance officer here? Okay. Actually, I would have to make that red because that was in there before. I didn't put that in. Okay, so yep, so that's something we're going to be removing from this document.
Put a little line through it.
That's true. You're right. You're right. Where'd my lines go?
Yeah, I gotta learn this bylaw by heart. That's basically most of what I do.
I don't know where the lines went.
Just like read it to bed every night.
Hit the 3 dots next to
Yeah.
the A. Your mouse is like, someone's mouse is, yeah, right there.
I'm not the only one helping me. Because they're like just chatting and I'm like, help. Okay, yeah, aside from that, I think that fixes that. Was that the only question you had, Christine?
Yeah, because that's what it like that what it was before. So I was like, why is this there? Did it change?
It's one of those things where it's like, why, right?
Honestly, it makes sense for me not to be there.
Yeah, I don't really know if you should be in interviewing kind of position.
That could also be a conflict of interest if we actually think about it, because she is getting to know them and updating them on all the policies. And if she was there to take place in every single one of the interviews, like,
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. Do we want to have it so that the governance officer has to sit in every single interview during this fall election though? Because this is what it's saying right now. That's what this is currently saying right now. Before, I just messed up, sorry. Before we had it so you could request the governance officers in attendance.
oh, okay.
Do we want to do it that way? Because I know the way we did it in the spring is we just had the president and the portfolio holder.
I kind of like it when it's just like if
And there's
they-
also a debate on if we should have the outgoing portfolio holder and the the other ones, because technically in the spring we were supposed to be having those outgoings in there. I'm
The
okay with
only issue is with having the outgoings is if it's anything, if it's gonna go any way like it did last year, people might have a really hard time contacting the outgoings or getting a hold of them. So that could be a potential issue with that. Although I don't see that for the current council, but
no, and you have to look at longevity too, right? We're
yeah.
for longevity. I think it is a concern maybe having like someone who's outgoing making hiring decisions, right? Because here they're counted as like an equal vote.
yeah.
But were you, and also it says the outgoing resource member, as in like the outgoing allyship commissioner would have to sit on the interview.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
Yeah, that could be a huge conflict of interest because if I was like friends with the person, I'd be like, oh yeah, I think they're better than the other person we interviewed or whatever. So
I definitely think the chief officer is good as the incoming president and the outgoing chief officer because that happens in February. This starts in March. How do we feel? Like this is going to be affecting a lot.
Is that how it was supposed to be?
This is how it is, but like I said, we're
Never done it like
we're
this.
gutting council pretty much right now, so we can make big changes if you'd like. Like don't kind of stick to the status quo. We could even put the president on here if you'd like again, like if it helps.
I feel like we for sure need to get rid of the outgoing resource member.
yeah.
I feel the same too, to be honest.
That removes all of this then. Yeah.
I think it's good to have the outgoing portfolio holder, but I see a lot of cons with it too.
Could we make a tabby thing like we did with the outgoing that says that it's when it comes down to decision making, it's incoming that gets the final say?
Do we maybe want to have the president there too and make the incoming and the president voting and the outgoing non-voting?
I like that. And like using the outgoing is kind of like a consultant.
I love
This might change a lot, but I also feel like the important part of the outgoing resource member is to like be in contact with whoever's being hired to kind of like be a little bit of a mentor. So that should maybe almost go into like the description of the resource member's tasks. Because like right now in speaker, it does not say like,
I know the issue is like there's no training, right? Like we're trying to, I'm wanting to create an entire like changeover policy. So you're totally on the ball there. I would agree. Changeover didn't occur from the top down. So I didn't have a proper changeover. The commissioners didn't have a proper changeover. There's no changeover at all, really. So we're really going to be forcing changeover and getting it as an actual policy.
yeah, I definitely think that should go into the actual position descriptions.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't think they need to be in like the voting, like the hiring stage.
Because like just have them do training after they're hired, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So do you still, because think about it, this is like March, right? So the exec is still in place until May 1st. So that outgoing is still the official person. I think it might be good to have that outgoing there. But obviously not like as voting, right?
Yeah.
Do we want the president in here? We also have to consider that it's going to be a little bit different than what it was in March, right? So all of those interviews could be in person again. And that could be taking a lot out of that person.
It's
I
also
don't think
harder.
the president is necessary for that,
I don't think so either.
because that's a lot, first of all, for you,
Yeah, it was a lot of
the president in the future, to go to, like, because they have to go to the fall elections too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of interviews to sit through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it should be like a main priority for obviously the portfolio holders, because they're the ones who are having more contact with the people they hire.
Yep, so I guess we could just keep it with the outgoing and the incoming, and then having the incoming do like the major decisions. We might have to actually like word that specifically in that case. LOL, I don't computer very well, friends. I'm sorry. Looks like having a flashback to this morning when
No, I literally was thinking about that. I'm like, oh my god, Emily.
I
But yes, you
I
understand the tabby thing that I was talking about earlier, and making the outgoing not voting.
okay, how should we word this, and why is it in the weird font?
Consultant. Like,
Anyone hate this font too right now?
yeah.
Holder shall act as a what? How do you want it worded?
Consultant.
A consultant. That better?
Woo!
Yay, love that for us. We win. Oh my god. Oh wow, here he is. Okay, the outgoing portfolio shall act as a consultant to guide the incoming portfolio holder on decision making, but does not have the decision making power regarding hiring. Does that sound awful? Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think.
Gotta make it red.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So we'll make it right like that. How's that sound? Good. We're happy with that. It's literally just like the incoming and the outgoing is kind of there. Yeah, I think we're all happy with this, how it looks now.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So when it comes to so let's say I found someone and then I need to discuss demerit points with you guys. So I reach out to you and then we call on to a council meeting.
Like demerit points regarding someone in an election or something, like say food and nutrition rep starts campaigning in residence. So you're the chair of the elections committee. So the elections committee has you, myself, Brooke, Kat, Paula, and Chloe. So, and Abigail. So you're the chair of it. So you would just call a meeting and we would discuss just like right now. And you'd be the chair of it like Adrienne is.
Yeah, but no, I don't vote or anything, right? I'm just there.
No, I believe, no, actually in here somewhere, it says that you yourself, you can give 4 demerit points to someone, up to 4. If it goes over 4, then you have to consult with us and we do a vote.
Okay.
I would prefer if you did consult with us like before the 4 anyway, but in here it does say that you are able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some changes. I need to go over it. I believe.
And I can and Abigail as well, we can work with you on this to make sure. Obviously this is not a perfect document either. Just kind of disclaimer, bylaw 1, 2, and 3 we might be seeing a few more times over the school year as I fix it. My long-term plan is April 30th, obviously, of 2021 to get this stuff fixed, but this is more of our emergency stuff. As you can see, this affects how council is going to work, right? And September 9th when we open up elections.
Sorry, I'm thinking this now. What if the outgoing and the incoming are the same person?
Christine, I think that's super fair, and we need to add it
Sorry.
in. No, we need to add it in. That's super valuable. Yeah, no, we need to add it in. We have to put in an event that one of the
Yeah.
positions.
I think in that case, that's when the president should be there too.
Yes, I also agree.
I also agree.
Loopholes.
Thanks, guys. This is why we do this.
So glad you pointed this out.
I liked Christine's reaction.
Yeah, I was like,
You're like,
yeah.
oh, yep. Where is it?
I'm running off 4 hours of sleep, but my brain's still working, guys.
Great, though. Okay, so let's just do the hypothetical for everything. Chief officer, incoming president, outgoing chief officer, outgoing governance. So no matter what, there's 3 people there. Hopefully it hits at least 2 people are fine. Resource, okay. Outgoing portfolio holder, incoming portfolio holder. Yeah, those could definitely be the same person. I think having just 2 people there is a little bit of a risk too.
So I would say something along the lines of I would put it underneath incoming, actually. Incoming, if
an event of, yeah.
in the event that the incoming is also the outgoing, the president incoming needs to be present.
In the event of the outgoing and incoming. Oh my god, great, cool. Being, I almost said vacated, being something by the same. Individual, the president shall fill in. Better wording, shall act in their place.
Maybe we should say shall act as the outgoing, or like in the position of consulting.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, because then that saves us so we don't have to describe it earlier because the outgoing automatically does the consulting. That's perfect. Yeah, I think that's perfect because we don't have to further explain it because up here it says the outgoing portfolio holder is not the decision maker, so it saves that no matter what.
And should it be the incoming president?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that saves us too. Okay. Yep. Cool. That's a lot better. You think that saves us every hypothetical situation? Can't mess us over here. And then resource interviews. Do we want it? I guess the president would definitely have to fill in no matter what. There's really no one else there.
For
And
the, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
For the one of like the interview individuals above the one we just edited, you said that there has to be 2 out of the 3 people there. Should we like write that in the bylaw that there should be at least 2 of the 3?
I think it stated above that there has to be 2 interviewers no matter what. Like it can't just be a one-on-one. If it's not, then I can go and change it later. Just do that quick change.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it does say that. It has to be 2 interviewers. It can't just be a one-on-one kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this is good. All right, I'll hand it back to Adrian.
Are there any more questions about this motion? Okay, are there any points for debate? No? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the voting period. So same thing, just message me privately in the chat and I will share my screen.
Just a question, you guys are gonna share this in the OWL page later on, like the amendments that you guys made?
Oh, are you not in the OWL page?
Oh, I am. I'm just asking, I'm just looking through the Zoom right now, but like after it changed, it's gonna.
I was
you're-
hoping that the way I set it up, you guys would have been able to click on the link and view the documents like I did. Like that's how I hypothetically thought it was going to happen. I might just have to change it to a different format and link it that way, but I will go back and fix it because that's what I was wanting it to be, right? Like you click on the exhibit, it takes you to the motion, and you click on the link yourself anytime. But that's unfortunately not what happened, I guess. I thought I finally had computers figured out. Yay me. Yeah, so that's how it should be. Like you should be able to look back on everything.
Brooke, do you mind setting me as the host again, please?
I thought you were.
No, it's me still.
Okay.
Why do you have to always go through you? Why can't I just make your host?
Because I made the Zoom.
This will be better next time because I'll send out the reoccurring invites. So like we'll get all of them in our calendars up until December pretty much.
Okay. No. Oh, I don't think I have access to that motion, do I?
Which motion?
Oh, no, I do have it. Sorry, I didn't have access to the exhibit. Okay, so 6-4, 0 against, and 0 abstain. Good. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the third motion. Okay, motion number 3, repeal executive TOR and replace with bylaw number 3. Whereas the Brescia University College Students' Council Executive Council forms the leadership core of the BUCSC, whereas the current executive terms of reference does not reflect the actuality of the positions in practice, whereas per bylaw number 1, the executive officer's terms of reference are stated to be found under bylaw number 3. Be it resolved that council approves the following changes to the executive terms of reference as seen in red in exhibit number 1 and approve the name change from the executive terms of reference to bylaw number 3. So our motioner is Petch. Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Benest.
Oh, I don't have edit access.
Oh my God, why? Why is everything like so different? Okay, 1 second. I'll see if I can change it.
I just sent the request for it.
Try clicking it again. I just changed the ability to access it.
I'm just going to reload the page. Oh, there we go.
Yay.
Okay, Councillor Petch, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yeah, you can't pull this one up either. We're gonna have to go through Brooke again.
Oh no, I do have it.
Oh, hey, wow, we love inconsistency with everything, right? I couldn't explain why things are going differently. I apologize, but this is another one where it's just amended. We're supposed to have a bylaw 3, and we do not. So the executive terms of reference are supposed to be bylaw 3 of any council. That's how it is on Western, Huron, and Kings. I was worried we actually just didn't have a bylaw 3 because when they were all saying the words bylaw 3, I didn't know what it meant. Apparently we do. It's called the executive terms of reference, but it's not supposed to be called that. It's supposed to be called bylaw 3. So that just explains the tiny little part at the end. We're just having a name change. But if you just want to scroll down. Yep, so as soon as there's red. So that's was saying that the execs are supposed to hold 2 office hours a week. So I'm trying to change council. So we're doing office hours differently this year. Regular council members are not going to be doing office hours. I just don't see the validity behind it. It didn't work well in a non-COVID year. Student council members didn't enjoy office hours. I think it was just a waste of many people's time. It just looked like we were sitting there at the bodega, just having a great time doing homework. No one ever approached us. So office hours are going to go that executive members are going to do 10 office hours a week. Office hours are going to be me sitting at my home, just like I am right now during the day if I have a day off. Me sitting in the council office, I'll just have Zoom open. I might be by myself on Zoom for like 2 hours straight, just doing my homework. And if someone pops in, they pop in, right? So I'm hoping to have the president, the 2 vice presidents, and the chief officers doing 10 office hours. AVPs, I'm looking at about 4 right now. So it's just going to be those executives and their associates doing it. So that just changes that one. If you want to just keep scrolling down until you see another red. I don't have memory of exactly where they all are. There it is. Yeah, so that's me changing that. This, before it stopped us from being softs and also club executives at Brescia. I think that student leadership on council and other things are very interchangeable. I would hate to stop somebody from being a SOF or a club executive within reason, right? So this says that the chief executive officer, so that the head of your board of directors can amend that and change that with permission. So it's not like a free for all, it's like very specialized permission. But if someone does come to them and say, I really want to be a SOF, this will affect my council work, I think it's something we want to change. So I didn't want to have that as an absolute no. So I'm done with that one there. There's not too much change on this one. Oh, just kidding, LOL. So do you want to just scroll up a little bit so I see the understanding? So I believe this is vice president student life. So Brooke, you're gonna love this. Look at what there's crossed out there. So it said you shall oversee the associate vice president student support, awareness, charity, diversity, inclusion, environmental, school of food and nutritional sciences rep, school of humanities rep, school of leadership and social change reps. So that just all got crossed out, and I just rewrote your portfolio. So that just explains your entire portfolio a little bit better. If nobody noticed before, I forgot to mention this in bylaw 1, I apologize. Pride and allyship is replacing pride and diversity. We did have some international students apply to the Pride and Diversity Commissioner, not knowing that it wasn't racial diversity. So we are changing it to pride and allyship. So that just kind of me changing it so it's proper how the portfolio looks. I'm finished with that there.
Can I look at it just to make sure you got everyone?
Yeah, I did it with the list I sent you.
Okay, are we, just because, okay, there's is international.
Yep.
Do you want me to add them into my group chat?
Yeah, I would. Actually, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. She's actually not answering right now, like with the international commissioner. She's like not answering. So yeah, Nicole's like, yeah, she's super active. So yeah, so those are officially, I don't know why. You're gonna like some other things in this later. It's gonna be fun. So, okay, yeah, so Brescia Ball Commissioner is no longer a member of our council. It was taken out 2 years ago. HBK Events Commissioner is a position we're adding on council. On Kat's request, she wants a position to collaborate between Huron, Brescia, and Kings. I think it's a great idea. Relay for Life is also not a position on our council. Okay, athletic coordinator was under the finance portfolio. So if you scroll up a little bit, this is under the chief financial officer. And athletic commissioner's there. So I just removed it from that because that doesn't make sense at all for it to be under that portfolio. And it's not under it in practice right now. It's under the events portfolio. That might be it. Yeah. So yeah, so like nothing too insanely world changing here, just some of those silly things like athletic being underneath finance, food and nutrition being underneath Brooke. It's kind of those little things there.
Okay, Councillor Benes, do you have anything to add? Would you like to speak?
No.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to the question period. Does anyone have any questions about this motion? No? Okay. Does anyone have anything to debate? No? Okay, so we're just gonna, oh, yeah.
Must complete successful BUCSC CCO candidacy exam.
LOL. Yeah. Okay, so like that position's not going to be opening up like right away or anything until February. So I'm going to change that before that one hits. I'm actually wanting to create it. Yeah, that I don't know how you do an exam for CCO, but I think I'm wanting to put it for that position, CCO, that they have to bring like, wait, is that just a mistake? Could you see if that's under CFO?
Maybe it's supposed to mean CFO.
Do you want to see if that's under CFO or not? Oh no, that's definitely under CCO. Great, yeah, so I'm gonna change that later on. That doesn't really affect us right now. I can amend that later.
Cool.
That
Just
is,
thought I'd bring it to your attention.
yeah, no, I obviously didn't look into it too deeply. I think I'm wanting to make it so they do have to bring like a little poster they've made or something, because when we hired the CCO this year, I had nothing to look on. I just got lucky that she was strong on stuff like that, but there was really no proof of that. So we'll kind of change that in time for there.
You can get so much help from Lambro communications class.
Oh man, that was a bad class.
Okay, so I think we're gonna move on to the voting period now. So same thing, just message me. I think I have to cancel my screen sharing to see the messages, right?
Yeah.
Stop. Oh no. Okay, so 6-4, 0 against, and 0 abstain. This motion passed. Okay, so we're gonna move on to now motion number 4. Motion number 4, amend ordinary and resource member terms of reference. Whereas the Brescia University College Students' Council recognizes the impact held by our student volunteers and knows our ordinary members and resource members are an integral component in our success. Whereas the current ordinary members do not complement proper representation per faculty of academics at Brescia University College. Whereas the current resource members do not complement the current needs of the BUCSC. Be it resolved that council approves the following changes to the ordinary and resource terms of reference, the cleaving and creation of new representative ordinary members and the creation of new resource members as seen in red in Exhibit 1. So do we have a seconder for this motion? I can be the seconder, I think.
You can.
Oh, I can't edit it though.
Oh, okay, 1 second, sorry. I'm consistent, it's fine. You should be good now.
Okay, it looks good. Okay, so Councillor Petch, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yeah, I just want to give a disclaimer that this entire terms of reference is not going to be as pretty looking as the ones you've previously seen, because I was waiting to get the confirmation that you guys would be okay with the positions I was wanting to create, all those representatives. So now they got the go for those. Great, you don't have access to that one either. I'll pull it up 1 second. Someone can give me screen share in the time being.
Do I need
So-
to make you host, Emily?
Pardon?
Do I need to make you host, Emily?
Yeah, I can't screen share right now. We are so efficient.
I think it might be best if I make the meetings next time, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Might be better. We would still have to be switching between me and you anyway. It'll still be annoying no matter what. Okay, here we are. So this one I told you is not going to be as pretty. You guys pretty much gave me the go to do all of those positions I was wanting to put in there. So all of the positions will just be stated in here. So there's nothing that you're not aware of that are going to end up in here. Some I added ex officio member. I'm really trying to like break it into those 3 classes to get more validity behind those actual members being a separate group. None of that's changed. I'm gonna have to go way more in depth in this document as well in the future. I'm gonna have to go very, very in depth in every single document, but not this one right now.
Instead of Prague allyship.
Where? Where?
Right there. Shall co-chair Pride Committee and Pride Initiative alongside the Pride and
Oh,
Diversity and Pride. You can change
that's
it to Pride Allyship. Pride.
Pride. Okay. Okay. That had to have been read, didn't it? This is just really annoying. Everything is annoying. There you go. Cute. Okay. Didn't really touch much of this. So some of the positions I haven't written out yet. Like I haven't fully wrote out all the reps that you guys okayed. So like the humanities rep still in here. It hasn't been broken out yet, but it will look identical to how the other reps pretty much are. Yeah. Oh, I see I changed it right here. Culture and inclusion, environmental, volunteer, those are the same. Accessibility is a brand new position we just created. Student Life Center, Accessibility Western, all the appropriate campus partners. International Student Support Commissioner is a new position we just created. Mature and Transfer Student Rep is a commissioner, sorry, is a new position we just created. I'll be perfecting this a little bit more. HBK events, I believe is not in here yet, but it will be very soon. Relay for Life, HBK events, just kidding, it's right here. I'm a genius. Yeah, so responsible for the coordination of affiliate collaborations regarding events, I'll add that in. Student coordinator, I took that out of finance for some reason. It was under finance in several places. So I'm not sure if it was on purposely under finance and we're doing it improperly, but it doesn't make sense for the athletic coordinator to be under finance in my opinion. So I added it back to events, but I had to copy and paste this out of finance once again. So I don't think it was a mistake where we just saw it before. It was on purposely put there. Comms has not been changed at all. See, financial officer, the athletic coordinator, like I said, got removed from finance. So this is me removing it from finance and copying and pasting it up there. Club's finance commissioner has not been changed. I'm currently talking to Chloe. We might be amending this just a tiny little bit. Kind of branching out how her positions are going to be working. Governance officer, I will have to be adding the positions of policy analyst and all that underneath of here. But then in the future, I'm wanting to move all hired positions out of underneath of here because every hired position is technically an intern. I'm wanting them each to have their own separate contract. So they're not going to be listed here. I'm hoping for this document to just list the counselors at one point. That's where we're hopefully moving, but we obviously can't do all that right away. So we're just kind of keeping it like a little bit secure as we move and do kind of a changeover. The representatives, like I said right here, due to the fact they're not all listed here, I laid them out for you right here. That's what we all just okayed before. No changes, but then those will all be listed fully like this. Here's me removing the first year off campus rep. Oh wow, interesting. And the other preliminary year reps, don't know why everything's crossed out. That's because I was wanting to change them. But yeah, so the first year reps will be replacing the 3 other ones. Yeah, we're really trying to move on. We're just changing kind of slowly for things. So like kind of having to make a change to something, even though we're going to be changing it again later, just to get it more secured like that. But yeah. I think that's it for this one for me.
Okay. Since I'm the seconder, I'll just say I think this is really exciting, and I think it's going to like balance out the voting a little bit better because yeah, Brussia is like 60% nutrition. So, and having like all the languages represented separately is really nice too. So that's all I have to say. So does anyone have any questions?
Just have a like I'm curious about the new position, the accessibility coordinator or
Yeah.
commissioner. Could you just like what did he do?
Okay, so this came out of me. So I looked at Westerns, all their similar stuff. So they have something called coordinators. They don't call them commissioners. So they have Pride Western, Accessibility, Gender Equality Network, all of those. And obviously Western, I look up to Western a lot with a lot of my decision making. I know a few of you already know this. I've really been utilizing Western because obviously they're $37 million corporation with 400 employees. They're super upheld strictly. So they're a good resource to look at. So I was trying to see what commissioners under Brooke, did we have any big gaps that Western saw as a priority to advocate for, and we just had a giant gap in it? And accessibility was a giant gap. Gender equality was also a giant gap I saw, but I don't think it's something we really, like, Brussia kind of is gender equality in itself, and it would be like internal advocacy. So Western's gender equality is gender equality within Western. I don't think it's something we really need a giant rep for this year. We could look into it as well for maybe next couple years. Accessibility was a giant one. So we decided to add that under Brooke. Brooke definitely like opened her arms to it and said, yeah, definitely bring it into my portfolio, which is super great. I'm super excited to see what that position does. But it's another one of those positions we're just building from the ground up, right? So I've also noticed we have a lot of accessibility issues at Brussia, not just physical accessibility. So I think some people forget that like accessibility is mental health. So there's some people having issues, yeah.
Essentially, like, I'm thinking worst case scenario if someone doesn't want to fill it this year. I'm planning them for me and my AVP. I've talked to her about it, of doing some kind of sign language because there is a sign language club at Western.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping maybe we can do like a workshop or something like that. But essentially, that's kind of where my mind's at with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. It's like the initiative of the year, right? Like
I really love this. I really love it actually.
I'm excited. I think it's super needed. I've heard a lot of students have issues regarding getting mental health accommodations. I think it's something that Russia and Western both have really bad issues with, so I think it's needed. I've also heard a lot of issues regarding physical accessibility. There's not a lot of wheelchair access places at Western. Can you kind of imagine navigating through Western in the snow with all those buildings? Some people said they have to literally go to like a basement of a building and then like up an elevator and like craziness to just navigate. It's not easy, but they claim it's accessible because there are ways to do it. But Brussia is also a little bit difficult. Like imagine the hill and the castle, right? Mm-hmm.
Even for people like, I remember like being in like food and nutrition with our schedule last year, and it was the year before too, when we had to do 20, it was 12:41 with Noel Martin, and we had to go to Organic Chem right after with a 10-minute gap in winter. And we had to catch the shuttle, and like the entire program has the same schedule, which
it was crazy. So they on purposely scheduled 2 mandatory food and nutrition courses, and there was only one section for each, like for both of those courses, as 10-minute like gaps, and one was Brussia and one was Western. So pretty much the entire class was all on the shuttle together. I just can't imagine what if you were a student in a wheelchair, right?
3 shuttles actually, and sometimes people were late because they couldn't take the exact first shuttle, even though they just ran after class.
There was like the first shuttle would fill up. So I just can't imagine navigating the issues like me and Christine were dealing with, and a lot of us deal with in terms of running to class with able bodies. Imagine navigating through Western, kind of the world with a wheelchair or like a physical disability. So I think this is definitely something. It was a giant gap in our representation completely. Like it wasn't getting hit anywhere else.
Okay, so we're going to move on to debate, although that was a little bit of debating, but is there anything else anyone wants to add? No? Okay, so we're going to move on to voting. Okay, I just need screen sharing ability.
You're good now.
Perfect. All right, 6-4, 0 against, 0 abstain, and this motion passed. Cool. All right. Oh, our last motion. Okay.
Everyone's like, thank God.
Okay, motion number 5, repeal standing committee terms of reference and replace with committees of council terms of reference. Whereas the success of the Rushing University College Students' Council is dependent on the success of each individual aspect of the organization. Active and organized standing committees and subcommittees help ensure that the functioning of the BUCSC is transparent and efficient. Whereas previous membership of standing committees lacked alignment with standing committee mandates. Be it resolved that Council approves the repealment of the standing committee's terms of reference. Be it further resolved, Council approves the committees of Council terms of reference as a replacement. Be it further resolved, Council approves the mandate and membership of the standing committees of Council. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Okay, I'll do it again. Oh, I need edit access.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Why am I so inconsistent? I don't understand what I'm doing.
Maybe it's because I'm logged into like my personal email.
It's because I have them set up differently. So half of them are saying that anyone with a link can edit, and half of them are saying anyone with a link can view. And it's just me being inconsistent, apparently. I'm not sure if it's just setting itself up differently every time.
Okay.
I'm gonna love it when someone's watching this.
Yeah.
Lisa. It's only Lisa doing the meeting minutes. You should be good now, hopefully.
Yeah, looks good. Okay. Councilor Petch, would you like to speak on the motion?
Yeah, so probably won't let you in again, so I'm gonna ask Brooke for screen sharing again. Actually, do you want to see if that one will let you in?
Yeah, let me try. Yay.
Consistency, cool. Okay, so I think it's still loading. Okay, so a little bit of context. This was my baby before Bylaw 1 was my baby, so I worked on this one for a really long time. We're completely revamping the standing committees of council. I'm viewing these as a one hit, could fix a lot of things. So this pretty much doubles as like a portfolio meeting in a way. So if you just scroll down to 2.0, well, I think that's the, so like 2.0 should be like the first page, I think.
Oh. That's 3.0. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so that just says the official standing committees of council. I'm debating breaking up the representatives committee in half because, like I said, we just added a whole whack ton of representatives. I'm unsure if it'll be efficient having that many in there. I'm debating on breaking it up to an academic committee. So like all those like academic reps there, and then having another representatives committee. So like those first year reps and the off-campus rep are in there. And it'd be really good too, those off first year reps get a little bit more one-on-one time and they're not in the committee of 18. I think it's really important to really spark one-on-one between the president and the first year reps. So I'm debating on further breaking up the representatives committee. If I do that, I'll probably talk to you guys before Sunday. And then the other one's advocacy, events, communications, finance, governance, that's us. And then the elections, I was talking to Christine about that one. So yeah, I guess we can just keep scrolling down. So this one, due to the fact that there's no red, I'm completely repealing and replacing. So I'm repealing the old one and replacing the new one. I should have probably had the old one in here. I apologize about that. I'll put it in for the actual general council meeting, but it's this, but not good. So the representatives committee, do you see why I'm wanting to break it up? So this is my plan. So instead of me breaking it up and having to chair both, I'm wanting to actually have the representatives, the academic committee, have an internal chair. So one of them gets to be the chair and the vice chair. They do like a mini internal election. That's exactly how Western does it. I'm Brush's representative on Western Council. I'm the vice chair of the one committee, just because like we did a mini internal election. So you trust that they'll kind of govern themselves. I could always make it so they internally elect a chair, maybe like someone like Genesis or Rosie, because they seem like kind of the go-getters. And then I could be the vice chair, like as president. So I just don't have to like really hard hit both. That's what I'm debating here. But as of it stands right in the policy, president's the chair, executive assistant the vice chair. You scroll down, there's all the reps. They will be different than the ones that we just passed. This was 10 steps ago of my mindset on how to break up the reps. You're kind of getting the step by step in my last 2 weeks. This is how it was at one point. I don't like it as much as the ones we just passed. If you want to see my mindset 5 weeks ago, you can. But yeah, so just keep scrolling down. So then the advocacy committee. So the advocacy committee is chaired by Brooke as the vice president student life, her associate's the vice chair. And then the membership is just all the members of her portfolio. A few of you might be asking, if you just scroll down so you can see the membership, but a few of you might be asking, at one point, I was wanting to have student at-larges on these committees as actual members voting as equal. I think we're making a little bit too much change at once, and I don't want to have too many changing moving parts, and then things will just like dissolve. So I think we need to make our priorities. As of right now, we don't even have standing committees going at all, and we don't have standing committees with actual members of council. So I'm keeping the membership with no student at-larges at all right now, so there's not going to be random students on these committees. We're just going to prioritize getting these going. Maybe in term 2 we can reassess, and maybe for next year we can reassess. So pretty much her portfolio is just AVP. So this can double as a portfolio meeting, and that also kind of removed the issue, because I know Brooke was wanting to do separate portfolio meetings anyway, because she didn't want those student at-larges there. This can be her portfolio meeting, so they're not having to do like a standing committee and a portfolio meeting. And also it gets more validity behind that meeting, so you're not like having to have those people meet randomly. Obviously president, governance officer, and speaker are all ex officio non-voting. In the policy, it says that any standing committee can request our presence. So if we are free at that time, we are required to go. If not, another one of us can fill in, but we're all ex officio non-voting on all 3 of them for Adrian and Abigail. Let's kind of just keep on scrolling down. I'm just gonna go through the committees real quick. Events. I didn't touch much of the mandate. We can kind of amend the mandate more, so that's pretty much exactly how it is before, but then membership's the most important part for Kat there. So 5.2, if you scroll down a little bit. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing. Vice President, Student Events Chair, AVP Vice Chair, Clubs, Orientation, Formal Events, Athletic, HBK Events Commissioner, President, Governance Speaker. Exact same thing. And then if you go to Communications, yep, so mandate didn't really touch it. Membership, the exact same situation there. And then Finance, the exact same. Like I said, I haven't touched the mandate, any of that. So what you're seeing right now, I haven't touched it. I'm probably gonna have to look more into it. I would want to get the actual membership going more. So yeah, this is a really long mandate. And then it's a really small membership. So you see how I am voting on this one. The reason is because the president is one of the signing authorities on all the banking. So I think the president should be voting on the finance one. It just makes more sense. It also creates another voting member of that one that has 3 voting members. So obviously I'm voting now. Governance and speaker are now ex officio non-voting. I left that squad. And then governance, that's us. Yeah, and so then if you just keep scrolling down, membership, so speaker, chair, governance, vice chair, president, student events. I'm going to add CRO. I recently discovered that the CRO is not a member of any standing committee, and I really want Christine to be involved in this type of scope, so we're adding her. It also makes sense because she's in the governance portfolio to be part of the standing committee, so she's going to be an official voting member of it. And then there's the elections one. This is yours, Christine. So if you're wanting to look into this one more and really learn about it, this is your #1 place. So membership, like I was telling you, CRO is chair, governance officer is vice chair at the bottom there. I'll just go up a little bit. Then there was all of us, like I was telling you, the 5 execs. Yeah, it pretty much just keeps going there. Standing committee terms of reference. And then in here, like in the small details, it's explaining how like agenda creation and stuff is working, right? Like that you have to submit stuff to the motion submission tool that a lot of you guys already know, so I don't want to go into those tiny details. The subcommittees, I haven't fully wrote the mandates out for yet. So that was me wanting to do an academic advocacy subcommittee. I'm now considering making like it an actual committee and breaking up the reps. So that's just kind of where my mind was going again about a week ago. Wellness and awareness, this is something that Brooke unofficially started already, so I just wanted to add a little bit more validity behind that connection. It was just the 5 of them kind of working together on stuff. Add more validity behind it, create an actual subcommittee, right? Pride subcommittee, this is a subcommittee that already exists. I'm having trouble finding its mandate. If Brooke, you want to help with that, I'd love that. Bylaw review subcommittee, this is before I added the policy analysis position. I was just wanting a little bit more validity behind me dying all the time. Subcommittee terms of reference, that's just pretty much was already there. I didn't touch any of that. As you can see, everything's pretty bad. I highlighted that in red because I wasn't sure if that section was correct because I was doing a lot of changes. That was just for me to look back on later. Standing and subcommittee resources, I put a lot here as like they get support from the governance officer, instructions on their OWL committee pages, just like us. Everybody else has an OWL committee page. Bylaws, Robert's rules. Nothing here got changed. Nothing here got changed. Yeah, nothing there got changed. I changed all that kind of stuff. So emailing the governance officer a list of members who are in place and all that. So after Brooke has her standing committee, she must email the governance officer who was present, who was not present. So I'm looking for a list of present, not present, present with, oh my goodness, what's it called?
Regrets.
Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day for everyone. So like just kind of breaking it up that way, and also any guests that attended, right? So anyone, like these committees are not going to be in camera either. So if you're the club's finance commissioner and you really want to do something regarding anti-racism, you can sit on Brooke's advocacy committee every single month. You can pass motions there, like you can do all this crazy stuff there. So I'm really trying to open up all the subcommittees to people who are wanting them. This is more logistical behind the scenes stuff. If you're a standing committee chair, it would be great for you to read up on this actual policy. Yeah, because there's a lot more logistics behind stuff. Yep, so I think that might be it.
Okay, I'm the seconder. I don't have anything to say. So we'll go to the question period. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a question regarding the like the academic subcommittee. Is that like separate from the student at large, the 3 separate, like the resources, scholarship, and so on, and those ones?
Yeah, so you are thinking of a completely different council. So you're thinking of Brusha Council with all like the faculty and admin and all that. That's a completely separate council, and they have like, it's like a Brusha University council.
Yeah, it's because I think we were talking about it once, and you told me like, would you be okay speaking up since you're like in one of those committees?
Yeah,
like,
yes. So what you're thinking of is on the agenda for our actual general meeting. I just realized that we still have to create the agenda. Adrian, if you would like to create the agenda tomorrow with me, we can do that. If you're not wanting to do it tonight, it's like, because this is probably going to be the latest meeting we're ever going to do for this committee. Sorry, that was a bit of an aside, I just realized. On the agenda, I'm wanting to have a lot more communication regarding everything. So I'm going to ask the student senators if they want to give a little bit of an update, right? And or maybe they can just kind of like message me a little update and I can say what's going on. Because I know as a general member of council for 2 years, I did not know what was going on. So I just felt like I didn't fully know what was going on at Western Council, I'm the president of student council. I sit on the board of trustees of the University of Brusha. Like that's a lot of really cool insight we can hear about. And I think students would love to hear about that kind of information. So I'm wanting to have a lot of different things. So Christine sits on this committee off of Brusha Council, not student council, like the actual Brusha University Council. So maybe someone like her could give a little update what's going on there. So that's kind of where we're getting at. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Any points for debate? No? Okay, so we're gonna go into voting. Six, 4, 0 against, and 0 abstain. And this motion passed. Okay, so now we're gonna go, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
There was no motion submitted because obviously those committees haven't met yet. Agenda creation, I'm okay to do that tomorrow if everyone else is fine with that.
I can make an amendment to the agenda that it gets added tomorrow to a very small agenda of. I'm okay with that. Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, tomorrow's September, isn't it?
No thanks.
It's the 31st.
Oh, it's the 31st, okay. And that'll just be Counselor Pedge and I, correct?
If everybody's okay with that. Is there anyone opposed to the two of us creating the agenda tomorrow? We can obviously send it to you guys before it gets officially approved and sent out on Wednesday. Great. We're good to go then.
Okay. And on that note, this meeting is adjourned.
Perfect. Yeah. Great job, everyone. We did that. So the recording will, if you stop it now, it'll automatically be saved to your computer as soon as the Zoom ends. So it won't like start being saved until you click end on your Zoom. And then it'll save as like a file and then you can just send it to me.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right now.
Yeah, perfect.